Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another chapter of Experiencer Interviews. And tonight, we've got an experiencer that has gone through a bucket load of interesting experiences, and I really needed to get him on. His name's David Wargon. David's lived in New Jersey, Georgia, and Oklahoma. Since he was born, he has had multiple paranormal experiences, and it wasn't until his early 20s that he became awakened, and that it is when the alien interactions began. What David speaks of is the truth. He doesn't have a college degree nor a book deal. He has nothing to gain from experiences other than to help others. He has had multiple experiences in most all fields of the metaphysics and paranormal, so he can relate to most people and their abilities. His true purpose in the world is to be an observer and critical thinker. So David, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
We've been friends on Facebook for a while, but I did get into listening to some of your past interviews, and you had really a bucket load, like I said, of experiences. So when did your first experience start, or at least when's the first memory that you've got of recall that something actually weird happened?
Well, I was always experiencing different entities when I was a young child. I would say people would be coming into that room with spacesuits on and to say, "Oh, we're just passing through" or whatnot. My parents told me that the first time I had my first imaginary friend was, ironically, his name was Gabi, which is a very unusual name. And they happened to mention it to my next door neighbors when I was about 2, maybe 3 years old. And they happened to say, "Wait a minute, we just lost a friend named Gabi literally just a few months ago. He passed away." And that kind of knocked the socks off my parents a little bit. But I would say that I would have like a lot of, ins and outs, a lot of different experiences, being in the right place at the right time kind of deal for safety. I had my first out-of-body experience was when I was about probably 9 to 10 at the time. It was hard to tell, but I would always say that I had 2 people that lived underneath my bed. And the funny part about it was I said there was 2 Italian guys that lived under my bed. One was really heavy, one was really skinny. And I said I was scared to death of them. I said they said they were criminals from, they rob places and they harm people, but they weren't. They were just hiding out. And then so that happened for years. And then all of a sudden, I felt them one night. They pulled me from the bed and dragged me through the house. And I remember grabbing onto the wall and screaming for my parents, and like nothing would come out. And then they took me to the backyard, and that's all I really remember of that. But that was my first time to leave my body and go out there. So that was a pretty neat experience. But question was, what happened afterwards? I have no idea.
So they took your soul out of your body and dragged you outside?
Yeah, well, yeah, just like a spirit, like out of body experience, you know. So that was my first time ever experiencing that, and then after that it was just a lot of seeing images here and there, some ghostly, apparitions here and there. And then it wasn't until I moved out of New Jersey, and that's when all the awakening happened. Georgia, I really feel, is a very powerful place. It's and I don't mean that in like the rich city and everything like that. No, I mean like there's like a fault line or something under there, because the experiences I had there were just unreal. It really was. Between paranormal, UFOs, things I can't even explain that I've seen, anything like that, spiritual or magical even. It was just an incredible place to experience that. And so I came to Oklahoma for work purposes, and it kind of died down. I've seen some unexplained UFOs that always pop up around me whenever they say, "Oh, okay, that's where you're at today. Okay, we'll know now." But other than that, I haven't had really much out here other than some dreams that are really, really interesting.
Well, let's get back to the because you said a lot of stuff, so I really want to try at least get a few details from you. At what age did the men with the suits came into your room?
That was probably I would have to say between probably about 25, I would say between 25 and 30, roughly around there. Unfortunately, I did not write dates down and years, which I wish I did, but I did not. So I have to go basically off that. It was probably about, I would say, 2, maybe 3 years after my awakening process, which I have to say that was very interesting too, to say the least. You know, a lot of people say they've just woke up and then they started researching conspiracies or whatnot. And mine was completely different, and I have not found someone who's had one similar to mine. But that was, I would say, roughly about 25. Let's just say that.
So you do have an ability to see ghosts, spirits. That's a given. Okay.
Yeah. At least sense them. If I focus enough, I can see images. Lately, the images have been getting a lot stronger, I have to say. I've been seeing a lot of different things, weird energies coming out of the ground. I've been seeing, figures in rooms and everything like that. Some video evidence that can support it, which is, a big plus to help with that.
Okay. So, when it comes to experiencers, they tend to tell me a lot that, something happened, at least ET wise, around the age of 3. Did anything happen to that, to you in that time period?
Not that I'm aware of. Mostly it was just a lot of spirits coming in and out, that kind of thing. I don't even really recall too much happening other than that. It seemed like I was very well protected though as a child. It seemed like I had a lot of positive energy around, in many negative situations, that kind of thing, but it definitely it felt very, very protected. I mean, there's even one time I'll recall that I was about to get hit by a car, actually. One time I did, but that was a life changer. But anyway, one time I was doing something stupid and a car was coming forward towards me, and I hit my brakes, and the back end of my bike went flying up in the air, and I ejected off the bike and landed perfectly on my feet as if someone picked me up from my back end and just laid me down on the ground, and the bike just crashed and went on the car a little bit. I was like,
really?
Even the driver was like stunned. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
So, but stuff like that,
Okay.
So.
Yeah, that's something you'd see in a movie, a Jackie Chan style. Yeah.
Well, the weird part about it was you felt very relaxed with the whole thing. It was almost like someone literally just took you up and just went, boop, boop, just like that. And but then there was one time when I was older, I did get hit by a car, but I call that as a flag in my life, to where I base my life off of flags. So there's a certain flag that changes the entire outcome of what you had in motion, and that one instance came along and it shifted you onto a whole nother path. And that's what I call the flag, because that's kind of when adulthood kind of hit, and it was like, okay, time to grow up and do things.
Okay. Did you see any let's say regarding all the paranormal stuff? Sure. Did you see anything move on its own? Weird sounds, voices, people talking to you at night?
As a kid, I would, I'll give an example. Like, I'd be playing with Legos in my room or something like that. And I would say, I couldn't find a part to save my life. And I would sort through everything. I was like, and then I would look across the room and say, I'm going to leave the room now, and I want you to put that back. And I would go back to the room and come back, there it was. And I would do stuff like that. I had an experience and of course everyone laughed at me at this one, no matter what, but I had an experience with a tooth fairy once. And everyone's like, the tooth fairy? And everyone's like, there is fairies, they do exist, the energy's out there, it is real. I said, but it was my last tooth I lost. My parents always had me put it on the windowsill so they could switch it out, and then, but the last one they didn't. They forgot to. My dad was knocked out in bed asleep. He was a hard worker. My mom, she and I were in the kitchen, and all of a sudden the dog started violently barking. We had a Doberman at the time, and went to the bedroom and started barking, and I went into the bedroom too, and went in there, and I saw this orb of light bouncing off the window, just smacking the window. And my mom couldn't see it, but I saw it, and the dog saw it. And then as it smacked the window, and then it just flew right through the window, out the window. And then I looked on the windowsill, and there's 50 cents laying there. And my dad's still knocked out in the bed. And my mom's there. I was like, I was like, "Did you do that?" And she's like, What are you even looking at?" So yeah, that was an experience I'll never forget.
Wow.
Yeah,
What color was the orb? Or
it was a sparkling white. That's all I remember. It was like I had shades in there, and it was a sunny day, yes, but it was smacking the window as if to say, "Look, I'm here, I exist," that kind of thing. Like, and then it just flew right through the other window, and it was like, that's really weird. So I think it wanted me to see, just to prove there's something out there. And I have had experiences with fairies in the past too, with other things too. Like for instance, when I was in Georgia, my wife lost her wedding or engagement ring, and we looked all over for it. So I had an urge to go into Barnes and Nobles, and I found a fairy book, 101 by Doreen Virtue, and I went in there and I read it. And so I asked him, I said, I need to find this engagement ring. I don't know where it is, and then I had cooked dinner the night before, and I had the urge to clean the stove. I cleaned the stove, and right next to the gas burner, which, gas stoves get pretty hot, was her ring sitting there on the stove. No apparent reason why it was there. It wasn't scorched. There was no burn. There was no ash. There was nothing on it. And I was like, and I told my wife about it, and she's kind of a 50-50 believer. She's like, I'd pay them their reward for that one. So, wrapped up some aluminum chocolate and put it out in the yard.
wow.
That was a neat experience though. And just to have that back. And I was like, wow. I was like, which made no sense why it was there. I mean, there would be no reason at all to be on that stove.
Well, no. Well, that's pretty cool though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you definitely have somebody watching over you. That's what I'm guessing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and like I said, it's helped me a lot. But like I said, there's those flags that unfortunately they have to turn the other way and let fate take its course. Yeah. This is how it is.
Yeah, well, growing up, I'm vegan now. That's why I'm so thin. But I used to be a bodybuilder. The guy that full ego, always in bars, and something really changed my life. And so I'm like, and the whole ET experiencer thing really gave me a kick in the teeth. So. My life totally changed.
That's one of the number one I hear about is, I tell people about my experiences with, extraterrestrials and UFOs, and everyone's like, I have never seen one. I want to see one. I always want to see one. I'm like, and I tell them, I'm like, you don't understand. It's life changing. I said, it's something that to see a UFO. Okay, sure. It's not that life changing. It's pretty cool to see, but if you have alien experiences, it's completely life-changing. I said it almost consumes you because I can't explain why, you know what I mean? But it does. Every morning I wake up and I have to go to work. I look up in the sky and stare at it for about 5 minutes. And every night I go to bed and just staring at the sky for 5 minutes. And it's just weird, it's just what I do.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
My two came just over my... Well, the first time I did a C5 with someone, I for the first time I saw, things moving in the sky. I didn't know satellites used to move. And so, first night was okay. Second night, that's when the UFO came flying in. The whole thing lasted about a minute, but it just a flyby, but it flew just maybe like 30, 40 feet above the power lines. Wow. No sound, orange, red, orb. Well, not an orb, but it's like a cross between an egg and a watermelon, let's say.
Was it triangular?
No. It was oval shaped, roughly.
The one I saw, triangle shaped with the orange and red dome light too. That's when you said that. I was like, that's really interesting.
Okay, so I saw that. That's the second night that craft came overhead. No sound. Everybody outside, didn't see it except us two. The second night, a week later, I'm in the woods at my parents' place. I called in the same craft an hour later. It flew just above the tree line, but I did see a triangle UFO. We were doing a C5 5 hours north of Montreal, and we were at a cabin in the woods. And around 11:11, a triangle UFO. Because the house was on a hill somewhat, so we could see the horizon. So we saw it really far away, but it took about 30 seconds to a minute to get from the horizon just above us. It was really coming in fast, but we think it was a TR-3B because we were hearing afterburner. But there were 3 lights, but on each corner it was a white light, but in the center was a big, huge red light.
Wow.
So yeah. So early childhood, you had a lot of paranormal spirit stuff happening. Did anything in your teens happen?
Not much that I remember, except there was one case to where when I was in the Jersey Pinelands. Now, if anyone knows New Jersey well, the woods out there are very mysterious. You know, a lot of the New Jersey Devil, and all that stuff. But they shapeshift out there. They shift. And there was one time where me and a buddy of mine, we were camping all the time, and we rode our bikes from the campsite we were staying in to the Tenners area, and we've been there, a few times. It's not a big deal, but when we went there, no one was there. It's like, okay, so I said, we'll turn back around. When we turned back around, the path was gone. The path was completely gone, and we were surrounded by trees with no path, and we were like, both looked at each other like, what the hell happened to the path? So we trekked through a mile of heavy briar bushes, and we got like cut up bad. I mean, we were just, we were bleeding like crazy. We had probably about 100, 200 scratches on us, but we had to pull our bikes through it and everything like that. And it was just, but that was one of my true experiences I had with shape-shifting woods. That was something else. That was creepy. It was almost like you're in a completely different world almost. It's like, what happened to the path? I had that. And then other than that, though, teen life, being adolescence and all that stuff just kind of overtakes, and you're too busy focused on school and everything like that. Nothing major really happened. But when my 20s hit, that's when it really took over. I left New Jersey. I had an opportunity to leave New Jersey. I got in the Navy, and then I was only in the Navy for about 2 months. And then I realized the military wasn't for me. So had an opportunity in Georgia, took it, and started getting my feet on the ground and everything like that. But that's when my first awakening happened. And it was an ironic place. It was just, I was sitting in the Great Clips trying to get a haircut. And I happened to look up, and I see sparks of light coming from the fluorescent bulbs. And it was just bouncing back and forth. And it was almost like that was my awakening. And there it was. So I went on into a website, Spirit Speaks Sixth Sense. And it was a man named Shepherd who lives out in England. And he set up this entire website, full of information, videos, everything. And I learned a lot from it, I started researching it. Then I got into the chat. He had a chat room at the time, so we got to know a lot of people from all around the world. That was pretty neat. But then the awakening happened. And when the awakening happened, I remember I woke up one morning and I had this headache, and it was a real powerful headache. But it was like on the top part of my skull, like right up here, and it was the crown chakra. And for 2 weeks, it felt like someone was taking pry bars and ripping my skull apart. And I would start seeing purple light, like bright, like no matter where I looked, there was purple light there. And then I would see sparkles of light going through it. And then it would feel like someone was taking their fingers and just kind of touching your head like this. And for 2 weeks, it did that. And then all of a sudden, at the end of it, I was at work. I'll never forget it. And it felt like it closed up. And then my third eye started opening up. And so it felt like someone was prying open my forehead. And then I started feeling the same sensation. And it was just absolutely insane. This whole situation happened, but it was overwhelmingly good. Like I felt like $1 million. My body felt great. I was all of a sudden I started experiencing all these dreams and started doing a little bit of psychic readings and everything like that. It just all started coming into click. And then I started remote viewing. I would witness what people were doing, and my friends in Ireland and Germany. I would detail out things I had in visions and stuff. And they're like, "Oh my God, I jogged there. Oh my God, you were in my house," and stuff like that. And it was like, this is really neat. But then the emotional part of the awakening happened. And that's when you start to clear out all the debris, as they say, all the negativity, everything you've been suppressing starts coming through. And that was horrible. All the memories of your past start coming back to hit you. And, but the key thing was to let it go, forgive and forget, just let it go. And then I started creating storms. like I had a storm create over top of my house. Like it was an emotional day, real bad. And it was a clear, sunny day in Georgia, nothing in the forecast. And all of a sudden, lightning starts coming down right over top of my apartment building. It starts raining, and it's just right there over the apartment building. And, I've made this maybe about 2 or 3 times if I got real emotional. And then I saw a thing on the X-Files maybe years later of a guy who did the same exact thing using his emotions. And I was like, okay, I don't feel like a freak. It's like they're showing something like this. That's actually pretty neat, But that was one of the big things on the awakening part. But then my first experience after that's when I started experiencing the UFOs. My first experience was on the beach in Destin, Florida. We used to go out there all the time. I love night walks. I love night walks. So I go out for like 2-3 hour night walks and just walk on the beach back and forth and sit in the sand and just watch the waves crash or whatever. But this night was particularly strange because all the normal lights were not on. Like street lights weren't on, the house lights on the beach weren't on. I was like, okay, this is kind of weird, but whatever. So I sat there in the sand and just sat there maybe about 2 hours and just sat there and just watched. And then I hear a humming sound, almost like a freighter. And I'm like, it's awfully close if it is. And I haven't seen a freighter in Destin, Florida before. So I was like, okay, well, now I'm intrigued. So I sat there and just watched, and the wind's coming off the ocean. Clouds are just flying past. I mean, really fast. And then all of a sudden in the distance, by about the second sandbar, I see a big poofy cloud. Unlike all the rest of them, you can't see through it. And it's moving extremely slow and it's extremely low. And I was like, and then the humming sound's getting louder and louder. And I'm like, what is going on here? So I'm like, okay, now I've got to watch this cloud. So I'm sitting there watching it. And then all of a sudden it gets up to past the first sandbar and it's coming closer to the beach. I'm standing here. The cloud's like on this side over here. And then all of a sudden it stops on this windy day, just completely stops dead in its tracks, sitting there. And I'm like, okay, this is really strange now. And all of a sudden, what this sounded like a switch turning on, a light beam straight out of the cloud, right into the ocean. As clear as can be, you can see all the way down to the bottom, bubbles coming up from the waves crashing and everything. And I start taking off. I start taking off toward the dock. And then being the person I am, I'm like, no, I don't run from these things. I need to see this, so I'm like a fool. I'm standing right underneath this thing. as it's hovering right over top of me. I'm just waiting for a beam of light to come down, but it doesn't happen. Oh. Goes right over me, goes right into the dune. And, excuse me, I'm sorry, I have motorcycles going through. And goes to the dune, lands down, and then all of a sudden a spiral amount of lights go like this, and then nothing. Completely nothing. And I was going to jump over the dune, but I had no shoes on, and it was like probably 1 a.m. But then after that moment, 3 days passed, nothing happened. Mm-hmm. I went home. My wife and I are at the apartment, and we're like, it's about Sunday, and we're like, you want to go for a walk? I'm like, sure. So we go to walking down Peachtree Road, and then and Highway 9. And or Abernathy and Highway 9, sorry. And I get down there, and if you know anything about Georgia International Airport, there's tons of traffic all the time, air traffic. And it's one thing I noticed, there was no air traffic, nothing. Now, mind you, there's the Air Force Base just a little ways down. And we're walking, I had a strange sensation, someone was staring at me. I didn't know what it was. So I stopped dead in my tracks. I looked up in the air, and there's 3 egg-shaped or like oval-shaped crafts up in the far corner of the thing. And they're just hovering there, but kind of like each pointing its nose at each other, just hovering there. And I'm stopped there just staring at it. I'm just like, I can't, I'm seeing, now I see 3 of them, And then after about a few minutes, one of them completely vanishes, like blink of an eye, disappears. The other one puts his nose forward and just goes off, and then the other one goes off but then vanishes too. And then after that, air traffic started coming right towards it, not even maybe a minute later. And I was like, that's insane. I just saw another one just completely by chance.
Yeah, but were they
So
there for your
it's the start of UFO. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's some right place at the right time. I don't know if it's here we're showing you we're here. It's maybe it's a combination of both. I have no idea. It's just weird that I happened to see, okay, there's 4 and within like a week, you know, and then after that it was like, okay, so my eyes were up in the air a little bit more. And didn't see anything for a while, and then my wife and I wound up buying a house, and that's when all the big experiences happened. That's when everything hit. It was like right after we moved, I happened to see 1 or 2 nearby on the upper part, like hovering over the house, just enough to say hi, you know, and then vanish off. And they did that here in Oklahoma too, which is kind of strange. So I know that it's like they keep tabs on me, you know. But
okay.
When I was in the house, my first night there, I had this dream that there was something not good in the house. Like there was a entity of some sort, but you know, I was used to dealing with them at that point, so they didn't scare me. I was just like, "Don't get out of here!" But it jumped inside of me, and I remember looking in a mirror, and I could see like my eyes were completely black, and that kind of freaked me out a little bit, you know, because I was like, "Okay, let's hope this isn't something that I have to be scared of now," you know. So I kind of just passed that on and just didn't worry about it for a while there, and then the experiences started. Aliens start coming out. I had one where it was, I'm trying to remember the chain of events here that they're in order, but the one I truly remember clearly is Halloween night. We had a small get together. It was about 4 or 5 people there, and it was about 11:30 trick or treaters. And I said, go put the strobe light outside. I was like, okay. So I went to put the strobe light out, looked up in the couple corner of my house. There was a triangular shaped UFO with an orange and red light, like you said, just sitting there right above my pine tree. And I like signaling everyone, get out of here, look. And 2 people went up there and looked at it, and they're like, their jaws just dropped, you know. And my wife thought maybe it was a hot air balloon, and the other guy was like, I think that's what I think it is. And then it just, no sound, took straight off. And I was like, I mean, I just watched it just go, and not a single sound in I was like, I don't think we have anything like that. And if we do, why the hell is it in my house? And then the couple nights later, I started having another out-of-body experience. Now, mind you, I was having them. Like I said, I did explore some parts of the universe and stuff like that. I was getting very good at it to where I can have full control or whatnot. But this time it was a little odd. I had it to where I went to bed and it pulled me up. My feet and legs went straight up in the air. And my torso was starting to, but I was grabbing onto the bed, so it couldn't take me. I was a little afraid of it. Because a normal out-of-body experience, you feel it, you know the sensation, you know the sounds it makes. You can feel yourself lifting out and going. And this was almost like I was being drawn. And I was like, okay, I don't like this. So it set me back down on the bed. No problem. Next night, same exact experience happened. And that to me is weird because I've never had the same experience exactly the same twice. And I was like, okay, this is really bizarre. But it felt a little more powerful, so I was really holding on and say, no, you're not taking me. So I said, okay, if this happens again, I'm going to let go and see what happens, because obviously there's a reason for this. Next night came around, nothing happened. It was a peaceful night, peaceful and quiet. Good night's sleep. Then the next night came around and it happened again. And that's when I said, okay, I'm letting it go. And took me up. And I bounced off the ceiling. I felt like, nothing hurt, just slightly bounced and landed on my back, 2 feet off the ground. And I was very comfortable, very, very relaxed, very comfortable. And I felt like $1 million again, just floating down there. And then I was drifting out from the bedroom to the hallway into the dining room. And I kept seeing this image bouncing back and forth. And I was like, well, that's just a little weird. So as I'm going, and all of a sudden I stop in the dining room, and this image still keeps bouncing back and forth. And I was like, what is this image? So with a lot of strength, I had a muster, and I used my right hand, and I went and grabbed it, and it came into full view. It was an alien gray. It was an arm with no muscle. It was a light grayish tint, and it was wearing a golden red robe, like very much like what you have in the background there, but with gold markings on it.
Okay.
And I remember letting it go. It startled the hell out of me. I think I startled. No, I just remember being knocked out, and then I woke up in the bed and that next morning, and I was like, "What was that?" And then I had no evidence on me, nothing hurt or anything. But then I looked at my right hand and I smelled it, and it reeked of sulfur. Sulfur smell was strong, and I would never touch anything with sulfur, so I didn't understand it. And then for 3 days it wouldn't go away. Even after showering, and I scrubbed fish tanks at work, nothing would take it away. And then it wasn't until about maybe a few years later that people said they've had experiences with alien grays, and they said they've smelled sulfur real strong. And I was like, oh my God, I had an alien gray experience right here in my own house.
You know why they visited you during that
I
time?
to this day don't know why that visit was. I have no idea what it was. I know, like I said, I didn't experience anything, surgical or markings or anything. It was just, other than the sulfur smell on my hand, that was the clearest evidence I had at the date. Was like, how do you explain that? You know what I mean? And it was the hand I grabbed it at. I smelled both hands, and like the left hand was fine, but the right hand, that was strong.
When you're out of body, do you feel that do you think you're still yourself? David, the entity, the person, or do you feel that you're someone else?
I feel it. I feel like it's the true part of us, the true, outside the vessel. And I got very good at controlling it. Like I could leave whenever I wanted to. I could make movements. If I said, just for fun, I'd go visit next door and just to see, and I could do stuff like that. You know what I mean? But a lot of times I would just let my mind go and see where I would wind up. I wound up, like I said, on Orion's belt once. That was a fascinating experience. I remember I was the 3 stars of the belt, and I remember just pretend like, there's 1, 2, 3, and you look into that one, and it was just blasting you with information. I mean, almost like a satellite dish, just smashing you with information, so much information. Then I looked at the other one, and the same thing. But then I looked at the center one, and it was nothing, completely calm, completely nothingness. And it was a good kind, And then years later, I wound up going back there, and I remember going to the center one and going into the center one, and it was like this ocean of energy inside of it, and I was remember just sitting in the ocean of energy, and it was very hard to describe, what I saw in there, but it was very relaxing, very peaceful, and it really makes me wonder if that's where a lot of our origins do really come from.
Yeah. So how did you get into that, that feeling? Did you to do an OB or get out of your body? Did you meditate beforehand? Did you lie down? Is it something you can do readily?
Not meditation. Actually, believe it or not, it's just right before about to go to bed. I would just lay down in bed, and then I can almost I had some experiences I'll get into later. About for a long time I haven't been able to do it, but I can still just. It's kind of hard to tell. It's almost like I'm mustering up my energy. I can feel it from my toes to my head, and it's just kind of like I'm condensing it down into one being, and then I can just kind of move up, and that's how I would do it. But you would feel the sensation as you started lifting out, and then the sound that I would hear was almost like you're leaving your actual audio here, but and you're leaving it, but you're hearing other things. It's like I said, it's very difficult to explain, but that's how I experience it. It would just make like a sound as I'm leaving, my head part. And once I get past that, I'm free to go.
Well, one time I think this happened in 2016. I was still at my dad's house in the basement, and I wasn't working, at that time. But I asked a lot before going to bed. I'd like to have an OBE because I didn't know how to, produce one on my own, and for night and after night after night. And one time something happened. I'm lying in bed. My eyes are closed, but I'm conscious. Okay. Then there's a like huge pain that goes throughout my entire body. I feel this electricity, and I hear a metallic sound in my head, really loud metallic sound. And I feel I'm being I can hardly move, but I feel like my soul was being stretched, or like my body was being taken apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like my soul was going one way, my body was going to another way. And I knew that, okay, something's going to happen. And, okay, they were probably trying to force an OBE. Then I asked them, okay, I'm afraid, try something else. And as soon as I said that, it stops. I black out. Then I realize I'm probably in front of my bed, maybe lying down, like looking, towards the, the floor. Then I think I'm on something white. Then I feel I'm going upwards through the basement, ceiling, through the roof. And, this happened really fast. Then I'm in orbit. Mm-hmm. And as soon as I'm outside of my body, I feel that I'm not, the entity that's me right now.
Right.
And because, something happened later on that I was asked by a female entity if I wanted to come with them. But while still in my body and being me, the first thing I thought was my mom's going to miss me. But when I was outside of my body, the real me was there. I didn't associate myself with, the one down on earth, and I was ready to leave because they were showing me like images of my past, and I thought I was dying.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's why I asked you the question earlier. But
I really, it's one of those unexplained things that we're still learning about, mm-hmm. And like I said, some people can do it in meditation, some people can do it however they're relaxed, but it's still amazing that it really shows and proves that we do have, there's more to us than just this vessel, what I mean? And that's why I don't buy into the whole, oh, once you're dead, you're dead. No, that's definitely not the case. I believe once the vessel goes, yes, I think you might have an opportunity to recreate or whatever experiences are out there. But, I think that it's really important that we study and practice the out-of-body experience because, maybe the problem is that, there's some theories out there that, there's a giant soul machine above the earth that's, that brings us back down, and erases our memories and stuff like that, which, may very well be. I mean, it kind of sounds plausible to me, but I think that the way to escape that would be to practice more and more and to be able to say, okay, I'm not going back there. I want to visit the universe. I want to go look around and see what's around there, and that's kind of where my standpoint is.
Yeah, you're probably right. And you're really lucky that, you've had the chance to have these experiences because, first of all, they're life-changing. You see death differently. And, there's a connection that we all have to the open universe that some of us might not be aware of. But yeah,
it's not for envious. Yeah, it's really not for everybody. You got to have a strong will. You got to have a strong mind. You got to have a strong belief system that because it rocks it. No matter what belief system you have, but when you get awakened, it rocks your world. And if you're not ready for it, then it's just not ready for it. But I'm still amazed by just what I learn on a daily basis and what comes to you. And it's just. It really is like the Matrix, the red pill, blue pill. It really is, and there's no way around it. Once you become awakened, there's no going back. Because even when you get frustrated on the journey, you say, "I'm so tired of this. I wish I was one of those ignorant sheep that just doesn't care," And then you think about it like 5 minutes, and you're like, "Nah, I don't wish that."
Yeah, I remember the guy in the first movie when he wanted to go back to the Matrix. I think he said ignorance is bliss. But there is some truth to that.
There is, and honestly, I am very grateful I was awakened when I was, even though I was at the tail end of what I call the world changing, because we all know the world has changed a lot, and I actually feel bad for modern day new awakening people and awareness people because the disinformation field out there is very bad. It's very hard to know who to trust and who to talk to. And what I come to find out is I found more feelings of trust with people that are just Joe Schmo off the street with their experiences than I do with someone with 9 degrees and 500 books out there. I'll be honest with you. It's just, it's like, there is some truth with them, but A lot of them are out to make money, and a lot of them are just, they are so overwhelmed with questions they can't get to you. Like, through all my experiences, other than James Bartley, Timothy Good was the only other one to write back to me. And he was the ex-defense minister of Canada. And he actually took the time and wrote back to me, even though it was 3 sentences. But he says, what you experiences are true. He said, they really are out there.
Yeah.
He says, keep up the good work. And that's what he left at. So it was pretty good that I got that, but that was all I ever heard.
So that episode with the Greys, was that the only one? Did something else happen?
For the Greys, I would say yes. The other experiences I had were getting a little bit darker, I would say. In some cases, they also helped me too. One of them was I was in very poor health. I wasn't taking care of myself properly, wasn't eating properly. I started feeling really, really weird. I go to bed, my left arm was getting a little numb. I wake up in sweats, just absolute sweats. And this is probably maybe about a year after that experience with the Greys, And then for 2 nights this happened, and I was getting a little worried about it because, you start thinking, am I going to have a heart attack or a stroke or something like that? You know what I mean? I just don't know. And then all of a sudden, the next morning after this 2 nights happened, I woke up paralyzed, and it was really, really strange. I woke up and I couldn't move. Like everything hurt. My entire body was I couldn't move. My chest felt like it was ripped open. My left eye felt like it was removed and put back in place. I didn't know what was going on. I literally just could not move. My wife already went to work. I'm sitting there just stuck. And then all of a sudden I was able to start moving. But then some weird things were happening. Like my throat was kind of hurting, like something was jammed down my throat. I had burn marks on my chest. I had a red dot in my eye, like a laser dot, or like a camera lens does, like in the old cameras, the red light was on. And I was like, what is going on? And I felt just terrible, but I felt good at the same time. So I had a ghost investigation kit with a, EMF radar. So I decided to go ahead and take out my EMF meter and I scanned my body, started from my feet, and nothing happened. And I was making sure I was in an area where there was no electricity. And I get up to my heart, and the needle goes all the way to the other side, completely buries the needle in there. And then I work my way up to my throat, and it does the same thing. And I go up to my eye, and it does the same thing. And I do this 3 times, in different positions and everything like that. And then all of a sudden, it didn't do it anymore afterwards. And I was like, what the heck is going on? Because I still have the burn mark like right here. And then everything started changing. Like if I wanted to go to the store and get some, let's say a box of fried chicken or something like that, my heart would start triggering. And then it would say, and the closer I got to it, the more powerful it was. But if I went to let's say, let me go get a salad instead, and I went and got a salad, and it would just disappear. And I was like, what in the world? I said, I like it. It's an all instant diet plan. but it took a while to kind of lead on, and I would experiment with it. I was like, let me go get that juicy cheesesteak and walk over there, and it would start going like this. And then I let me go get some fruit. And then it would just go on like that. And then I lost about 40 pounds, because of that. Yeah. But my eye was the weird one because it was scratchy. It felt like sandpaper. And then this red dot kept appearing. And that one was the big one. And because I still have that today. And it just kept appearing. And so I close it, and then I open it back up. I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's just something in there. And then I touch it, and it would my whole eye would just hurt. And then, like I said, it took about a day or two for my throat to go away. And I was like, this is really, really strange. And then maybe about, I would say, a month or 2 later, I think maybe about a month, that's when I had I started getting, the reptilian experiences. There was one where I think it was right before the last one. I was in this laboratory, and I remember being thrown up against the wall, and by a green hand. It was real big, took me by the throat, slammed me up against the wall because I was trying to resist about being there. I didn't want to be there. and I just remember violently being thrown on there. And then I couldn't see looking out. I was kind of looking out of myself at this happening, if that makes sense. You know, kind of like a third person almost. But and then I remember being thrown back into myself and then thrown into a chair that looked like a dentist chair with a bunch of stuff all around it, like instruments and such. And then I don't remember much after that when I blacked out of that. And then I woke up, and then they lured me into this other room that had a table on it. And then I felt which I thought at the time was my soul. Then I come to find out it was my essence was being extracted. That one was very scary because it was a tube of this gel. It was this beautiful glow. I mean, the only way I can describe it is if you take like a lava lamp and you see the lava lamp when it's all heated up and it starts moving. That's how it moved, but it was all white with beautiful purple and pink and white silver sparkles all around it. And they had taken it out and put it in a container. And I remember some of it fell out just a little bit. And I remember running to the floor and grabbing it and putting it back in me, you know. And then I was left in this one room to sit there for about 5-10 minutes, and then I was brought back. But after that experience, everything changed. Like all my abilities, all that stuff I was doing, my mind couldn't slow down. It was just went rapid, fast, and meditation was almost impossible. Like I was, you know, if I wanted to have an out of body experience, I would get out and then be thrown right back in, like that. And you know, and even today, like I still struggle with it, but it's starting to wear off after about 7 or 8 years. Finally, like I can start to meditate again, and I can start, you know, I'm starting to work on out of body experiences again, and I'm starting to work on, you know, psychic views and everything like that. But, you know, it's just calming the mind down. You know, whatever they did to me, it definitely changed me a lot. Wow. And then roughly about probably a few weeks right after that experience, that was the last big experience I had, I was in bed. My wife was sleeping on the sofa, and I remember waking up and being told to go, you know, to the living room. But I was kind of out of myself still. I was kind of like in a daze, and I had me drink this putrid liquid in this black bowl. And it was disgusting, but they forced me to drink it. And I remember I went back to bed, and then minutes later I woke up and I saw two figures in the corner of the room. But the corner of the room was pitch black. Like you can almost barely make them out. And there were 2 reptilians sitting there, but they didn't look aggressive. You know, they looked like, the best way to describe it in best terms, if you ever seen Futurama, take Morbo's head and put it on them without the veins sticking out, obviously. And they had more of a lip that went out this way, and they had no neck. And they were wearing spacesuits. And they didn't say anything. They were just standing there like sentries almost. And then I look over to my right, and a door appears in my hallway. And this is the freakiest part, was the door opened, and there was 3 figures standing in the doorway. And now by this time, when the door opened, the reptilians bolted out the room. They ran out of there like fast as possible. So these guys came out, and they were shapeshifters. And I obviously could tell right by that they were much more powerful than the reptilians were. But at first they looked like men. And the funny point is the way they were acting was like a bunch of guys. They were just off duty at work, were at the bar drinking. And then they came into, like, the boss called them. I'll say, you need to just do their job real quick, then you're off duty. And they came in, like, they were joking around. They were talking to each other. And, like, I can move. Like, this is the first experience where I actually had control of my body up to a certain point. Like, I can move on the bed. Like, I had my arms behind me. I could move. I could even speak a little bit. And that was the most movement I ever had with that kind of entity around, because I think a lot of times they block you. You know.
So you were actually conscious. This happened in your physical body, right?
Yeah. This happened in my physical body, but the mind felt like it was fogged over, almost like I was in a slight sedation, and because everything in the room, I remember it was exactly the same. There was no difference on it, and I was physically able to move, so I knew this was real, but I was distorted, just enough to where I couldn't bring harm to them. So they came over, and they were telepathic too. And as they were talking, I was watching them shift. Their eyes started turning solid white. They started getting long ears, almost like dog ears or something like that. I thought maybe they were like the dog men you hear of, but they weren't violent at all. They were very, very nice, very pleasant. And they came up to me, and I well, prior to the reptilians leaving, as they were leaving, I remember talking out to them, saying, "Hey, I got questions to ask you," and because I just wanted some answers from anyone at this point, and they read my mind telepathically, and they said, "Don't worry about them; they're not going to bother you anymore." And they said, and they asked for the answer to your question. They said, you're going to be okay. Don't worry about it. Because, that's my first question. Like, why are you doing this to me? He says, and they said, they reassured me tonight. And then, as they're still talking to each other, the one guy says, "Hey, would you mind if we look at something, in you?" And I was like, okay. And I was comfortable with these guys. I mean, they were cool as hell, I have to say.
Wow.
But I laid back down on the bed, and I just remember seeing this glow of light. And then all of a sudden I'm out. But then I remember seeing something being extracted from my throat and my ear, because my ear was vibrating an awful lot for the last year or so. And for me, it looks like instruments were like this long, but that's how I was interpreting them, And I was interpreting them as like recorders and microphones and stuff like that. That's how I was interpreting it. And then a message came in my mind saying, "We were leaving now, but we will be back. We have work to do on this asteroid that's, such and such in space." I can't remember the full message, but that came to mind. And it was really fascinating. And then at that point, the only ones that are still in me now that I know of are my left eye and my heart one. Because the heart one actually started triggering. I started wearing off a diet a little bit, and then all of a sudden it started triggering on me. And so I was starting, okay, time to cut down, kind of eat healthier. And then the eye started up a few months ago, and it was the brightest it's ever been. It was almost like my entire lens was bright red, and I was like, "Oh, what is this light?" I was like, "Does anyone else see this light?" And they're like, "What light?" I'm like, "Everything's red." I said, "I can't." I said, "It was lasted for like an hour or two, and then it went away." But I think that whenever they're nearby, I think it triggers.
Do you know if the the implants were physical? Did you have any marks on entry?
The one on my heart, yes, I have the burn mark still there. The eye, the only thing I can only have is, like I said, it felt like someone took my eye out and put it back in. My entire eye hurt, and I think it was a little bloodshot too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But there was no reason for it. Like, there wasn't any, even if I slept with it open and the sheet was touching it all night, like behind it hurt, like all of it. And first thing you think, "Oh, am I getting pink eye or something like that?" But no, and nothing like that happened. It felt like there was hundreds of grains of sand behind it. That's what it felt like. Yeah. And then, but as for that, like I said, the dot's still there. It triggers every once in a while, and it's like, so I know there's something in there.
Oh, I believe it. There's a lot of. Yeah, go ahead.
It's a blind side too. Like, if I look something direct at it, it doesn't exist anymore. Like, I can't see it. It's almost like a mirror of both sides on it, but it's so tiny. It's like, it happens to me a lot.
Wow. Now now you were talking about a dentist chair of sorts. Mm-hmm. Was that the same thing that the bed that you were on with the two guys?
No, the bed, the two guys was my own bed. The one with the reptilian experience. Yeah, that was more like I would say, torture / we don't care about you. We want what you want out of you, kind of situation. So it was a very dark room. It was, like you said, greenish hues, maybe very dark coloring, until I went to the room with the extraction of the essence. And that was, I remember a white sheet being on a table and just a single light coming down. I do remember that, but other than that, they kept themselves hidden from me. I wasn't allowed to see them. I do recall their hands on me. They were, like I said, they were scaly green, that kind of thing. But very.
Did you see their faces?
No, I wasn't allowed to see their faces.
Okay.
It was blocked as shadows for me. I saw their hand, but that was about it.
Now you talked about a three-pronged device. Was
Mhm.
that the item that you used to get your soul out?
That one was not. I don't know what was used for that one. That one was in that separate chair. I just remember laying down on the table for the essence extraction, but I don't remember anything else. It was like said. I just remember laying down on it and someone coming in the room. Of course, not saying a word. They just did what they had to do. You couldn't fight it, no matter what. I mean, it was just like you were trapped. Like I was very limited of what I could do, very limited of what I can say. At that point, because I was very resistant against it. And they don't like resistance. They want what they want, and that's how it is. But the question is why they took it. I don't know. But I beg for it back every day. I mean, I want it back. But I'm at the point now where it's just rebuilding it. And it'll just keep growing back, and make sure do good deeds, be a good person. That has never changed on me. But as for the skill sets and everything like that, it definitely put it on hold. But they couldn't. You can't take it away. I think it's all part of you. It's who you are.
Now, coming back to that dentist chair again. As soon as you said that, that's that word really triggers something that a lot of my labs tend to come back with stories of seeing dentist chairs. I did a 4-way panel with you still there? Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry, I had a low battery thing.
Okay. So yeah, coming back to the dentist chair. I did a 4-way panel with Melinda Leslie, Lorraine Fenton, Mr. Johnston, and Jocelyn Buckner, and a lot of the stories that came out of that were they were all either on a dentist chair or they saw a dentist chair, which is basically
yeah,
they do stuff on you there. But a lot military were there, reptilians tend to.
Well, I also had other experiences too. Now they come back to me, and one of them was I remember being in a tank of water once. And now I had, for my whole life, extremely sensitive eyes. Like it would take if I had to put eye drops in, I would have to have someone do it, and it would take well over an hour just to put one drop in my eye because I would resist so badly.
Oh.
Okay, my eyes I just hated water or anything in them. After that experience I had in a tank, I remember being in a tank and there's people around me and everything that I remember pounding on the glass and everything like that, and my eyes were open underwater. Ever since that experience, I have no problem at all with water going in my eyes at all. It completely erased that I ever had a problem or a phobia about it. And then I remember there was another one where I was in some sort of training simulator of like shooting, like bombs going off around me, but people bloodied and bodied and everything like that. And I told these stories to James Bartley about it, and he says, "Yeah, I think you had some MyLab experiences." And they never continued, though. It was just maybe about 3 or 4 different experiences, but it really made me wonder about that. It was like, and this kind of scares me. Is like, I hope I'm not like one of those like sleepers or something like that. What I mean, they can trigger whatever they need.
Now, were there any ETs involved during the?
No, I just remember being in some sort of facilities, here and there, and I can't exactly say how I got there or why I was there. And it just was there, It was almost like, let's call them up and see this program here or that program there. But the water one, I think, was the most interesting because, like I said, water sensitivity in my eyes were just gone overnight, and just for something like that was really strange. Like now I can open up my eyes in the pool, shower. I don't mind the water hitting me in the shower. If I take eye drops, I'll take eye drops. It's strange, what I mean? Where it would take like so much resistance and so much hesitation to do it. Now it's just like poop, done. And that was another one that's really can't be explained too well.
Now, do you think it was really water? Was it more viscous? Or could you breathe in it?
I could have. It could have very well been breathable kind. I can't honestly remember if I had a mask on or not. I mean, I could have, but I do remember being in the tank. Just no way out. It was kind of like it wasn't a typical float and it wasn't a typical sink. It was just kind of sitting there.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Now, getting back to when you said you felt like you were being drugged up during one of the events, I had a shadow being event when where there was a black hole that appeared in my bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
I was still dating the abductee from Britain. And, after that, she had a man speak in her head, EMP all the time. She woke up to that right after me, putting the lights on after seeing the black hole. But, we fall back asleep and I wake up, during that same night, and I was super drugged up. And that's when I saw, in my bedroom, in front of the bed and on her side of the bed, 5 huge, 6 foot tall shadow beings.
Oh, wow.
Huge helmets, round helmets, no hats like most people tend to talk about, which is strange for, because I've never seen shadow beings with, normal fedora hats on. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, mine had helmets. So yeah, I felt, being drugged up, when you're coming out of an operation. So that's how bad it was. But I was still able to move, but still.
That's kind of how I usually feel after those experiences. And I really think that our brains have to interpret it in a way, because I think that our brains are also trying to be distorted as well too. And I think they're trying to interpret it to say, hey, this is what we're going to say it looks like, whether it is, like the guys that came out of the closet, and were talking to me and everything like that. And like the face, like I said, of Morbo, but maybe that's just how it was brain was trying to interpret it. It's some people theorize that, if you've never seen it before and you're having to witness it, maybe subconsciously your brain's saying, okay, well, we're going to say this is a hat instead of, maybe it is a helmet or something like that,
Yeah. But are you aware if anybody else in your family has had similar experiences?
No. My sister and I used to have a real good connection. Psychic connection still goes in well. Even though my parents still live in New Jersey and I'm here in Oklahoma, but while I was in Georgia at the time, my grandparents both passed away, and my parents were working on their house, and my grandmother would come to me in dreams and furious, saying, she would show me pictures of the hedges or show me pictures of the walkway or show me pictures of this. And I call my parents and I say, are you working on the house? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, Grandma's mad at you. and I would get that for the longest time. And my mom's jaw would probably just drop. She was like, wow, that's pretty incredible. But I would call up and say, yeah, she visited me. She's not happy you're doing this or doing that. But, we get those kind of things. But as far as I know, no, nothing like what I've seen. I can't seem to find a connection. It's almost very random. But my wife has. So
yeah, there's no military family other than the fact that you were in the military for.
I did have an uncle in the CIA back in the Russian or Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah,
and he was brainwashed. He's definitely a person who doesn't remember his past. They found him naked, walking around the streets, completely lost to who he was. You know, we did have that military factor. I was in the Navy for, like I said, 2 months, and I left. Grandfather, of course, was in World War II. You know, that was about it. But the CIA one always was a questionable one. You know what I mean? Because he was a pretty intermediate, relative. I didn't know him very well though, but met him at a few parties here and there. But always made me question though, like what they know everything about your family and everything like that. So.
So anything bloodline related, from the past, something that might have been important, an important family?
Not that I can think of. My dad was adopted. My mom's history is, pretty much, Scotch-Irish, what I mean? So not really much there, nothing with anyone that kind of experiences. Now, mind you, I've met a lot of people, met a lot of, military personnel. I've met a lot of people who know military personnel and a lot of people that agree that this stuff does exist. These, suppression, anything I tell the people is like, government tries to suppress it, or they say you're crazy to think about it. Okay. That's when you think about it harder, because that's when they know stuff like that, it's, every person has their spiritual advisor, which is their astrologist, and their psychics. What path should we take today? Reagan had it. I mean, he was open about it. Mm-hmm. Hitler had it. He was open about it. I mean, even Trump has a spiritual advisor.
Wow.
But that's how that works. It's just, they know that these things out there exist, and they know they're powerful. And if everyone did it, then no one would be in power.
Yeah. Now, do you think you've got a guide watching over you? Because yeah.
I think everybody does. I think it's more than one. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that they come and go. It's up to us to listen,
Yeah.
to it. Still speak. I can still speak freely to them. Of course, I don't want to go out in public and start talking to my right or left shoulder and make it look like a nutcase.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you're alone and you just ask questions and stuff like that. And still things pop up. But like I said, now that it's after about 7 years, I'm able to get a little bit more into it again, because for a while it was so disconnected. It was almost like someone put a wall up in between me and everything else. And now it's like starting to build back up again and it's starting to feel good. The awakeness part never left though, knowing what's happening in society, what's happening in the world, watch out for red flags, all that stuff.
Were you ever regressed?
Could you explain?
Well, the normal regression, they put you under with hypnosis, try to find out, try to get some memories back.
There was John Henderson in Georgia, one of the best. He worked at the spiritual shop, and he was known as one of the best. What's it called? The UFO Center of Georgia recommended me to him and everything like that, which I already knew him, but unfortunately, it was $250 an hour, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to plug up my phone.
Yeah, okay.
It was about $250 an hour, and I couldn't afford that at the time, and I wish I could have gone into the regression because I would love to have known what happened and seen more clearly, and maybe one day I will. It's just I don't know. Out here in Oklahoma is conservative Christian, so it's kind of hard to find your path with that. But I was led out here definitely by the universe takes care of me. Let's put it that way, because I was by random asked to come out here to Oklahoma for work purposes. And I'm glad I did because after the pandemic happened and next thing you know, I'm glad not to be in Georgia. I'm out here and it's a lot safer out here. And it's just funny how the universe takes care of me. I go with the flow.
Let's get back to that. I think you talked about shadow beings earlier. Were they like, did you figure out who they were? Were they actual shadow people or like an alien in disguise?
I have done so much research and I have not been able to find them. Now, there are some out there that are shapeshifters, but as for them, I don't know. I don't know if they were human. I don't know if they were alien or what species they were. All I know is they were cool as hell. That's all I can say was I felt very comfortable around them. I don't know if I probably should have or not, but the impression they gave off and the feeling I got was to be comfortable with them. And like I said, the reptilians, whether there were sentries for them or not, I don't know, but all I do know is that I haven't seen them since though, but they did take two out of me that I do remember, one out of my throat, one out of my ear, and that ringing in my ear stopped and my throat wasn't scratchy ever again after that. But, I don't know about the other two, why or if they couldn't take it out, I don't know.
Or maybe they're serving a purpose.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. And like I said, the funny thing is after I don't get sick. I don't get sick anymore at all. Like I actually, I used to get just a little 24-hour bug once a year. I haven't had that in 3 years. That's actually stopped. I go the whole year without getting sick. I'm around people with flus and all different kinds of illnesses and stuff like that. I don't ever catch anything. I even challenge them. I say, go ahead, cough on me. I'll stand right next to you the whole day and I guarantee I won't get sick, and I don't. And it's just amazing, just to have that kind of constitution.
Now, you've said you had an experience a voyage to Mars. How did that happen?
It was a very short one, but I do remember being in a craft and visiting Mars. It was I remember looking outside of a portal window about it. And then the only thing that ran through my head was maybe it's true what they say, that there is, slave camps on Mars, because there has been talks about, people being abducted and never seen again, but they're actually there on Mars and stuff like that. I really do believe that our space program is much, much larger than we put it out to be. I really do believe there's ships that can go back and forth much faster. I believe that there's a lot of things that we're not being told up there, but as for Mars though, yeah, I saw it. I remember seeing it. I remember, witnessing the dust storms on it, but I think a lot of the work is happening probably underground. That's what the main thing is. But I never touched down on it or anything like that. I just remember passing it by, and it's almost as if I was like, just slipped right into the ship and saw it. I'm like, oh yeah, but like I said, nothing ever happened with that. Thank goodness.
Well, do you remember going into the graft, and flying up there?
I remember being inside of it. I remember seeing inside of it. I remember someone, maybe like possibly a military official or something like that, standing next to me, while looking at it. But and then after that, like I said, it wasn't a very long one, and I don't remember it much, but I do remember, actually seeing the planet. I thought that was pretty neat.
So did you black out and wake up in the bed, the next morning?
Yeah, that's kind of how it usually works, and then I always kind of replay in my head, okay, did I see a movie prior to this happening? Did I do that? And, and just to make sure that I'm not confusing, a fictionist thing I happen to see with that, that's the last thing I want to do. So then after I really kind of review over it, and I realize, okay, this is quite a big possibility that I did see this, so, and that's the key thing is, because sometimes your mind's kind of hard to tell, you're real tired and you're watching a movie, you could replay the events.
No, sometimes I've got certain, dreams that I thought sometimes you might put aside as, something that you saw in a movie, but one time I was meditating and I was, thinking about the grays. I go to bed and I wake up, I'm on the floor and I'm realizing I'm in a very long white corridor, and and the entire corridor had doors throughout and they were somewhat closer together, but the entire corridor was just filled with doors and everything was super white. And I was on the floor and I look up and I'm seeing a gray wearing a doctor's lab coat, and so I tend my hand to ask for help to get me up. So I get up and I realize I'm face to face, like eye to eye with this gray. So he's probably at least 6 feet tall. And I realized he doesn't have a nose, or I didn't see anything, but he had the normal like elongated eyes, and he felt neutral, like not nice or bad. But the thing is, I really put that off as a possible, like just a dream, really. Mm-hmm. And but the thing is, I realized he didn't have any hair on his head, but at the back of his head, he had bushy, like long, spiky hair that I would put down as Einstein hair, like you see in the cartoons or movies and whatnot. Yeah. But it was very, very thick and dense, and I couldn't put a name to that until a few months ago when I went on Misha Johnson's radio show on KCOR, Starseed Awakening. And the way I described it, she started laughing, and then she says, "What you're describing is what hybrids tend to have, and what she called cotton candy hair." Wow. It was that same thing: the texture, the density, the spikiness, but the look could have been put down as cotton candy hair. And I thought, oh my God, so that actually happened.
Yeah, hybrids too. That's another thing we don't think about much, because like, add that to the mix, because DNA splicing, human interbreeding, who knows, it's just it's one of the things, and I remember, as for out of worldly things, I would see crafts here and there. I would see I remember one time, clear as day, absolutely clear as day. There was one. I was on the highway. On Georgia 400, and I was just getting on the highway, and I look up, and there's this craft, like right up here, right on the highway. I mean, just it was almost like something out of like the movie They Live, almost. But it's just weird because nobody else was seeing this. I saw it, and it was a cigar shape, but it was vertical, and it had spikes going around the bottom half, and then a big observation thing on there, and it would move like this. Like that. Wow. And I remember it was just like one of those things. Once again, there it was. There I saw it. And I was trying to search my phone, but if you know anything about Georgia 400, you take your eyes off the road for a second, you're going to be in an accident. It was during rush hour. It was bad. So I couldn't find my phone in time. And then there it went, about to the past. So it went down by the river, by the Chattahoochee, and it went down all the way down to the Dunwoody, but it was flying near all these buildings. It was flying near like all of these skyscrapers and apartment homes and everything like that. So I decided to go online and say, does anyone see this UFO? I couldn't find a single report about it. I was like, but I saw this thing as clear as I saw a car or anything else. There it was. It was this like, kind of a metallic, just a metallic look, like, kind of a brownish, grayish look. And I was like, nobody reported this thing. I'm like, how did no one else see this thing? I mean, it was just so clear. but that's the kind of, crafts I would see, I mean, and now when I moved to Oklahoma, probably like the first month I was here, we had a lightning storm, and one was actually right up above the house, actually, but it was kind of disguised. It was kind of a blur. I watched this it was like a distorted cloud, but it was like kind of blurred out, you know what I mean? And it was going over the house, and then the lightning storm came up a couple days later, and then it was lights were just like going all around in this cloud right up above the house, and it kept moving further away. I kept going after it, and it kept moving further away. And even my wife caught one. She actually got a picture of some lights, and we went out hunting for it once. But I never had any luck finding it again. But it was pretty interesting. She got a picture of it. She's more inclined to the phone than I am. I hate my phone, but but even still, it's like. And then then I had my first USO. I forgot about that. Last year I was on my very first cruise ship, and we left from Miami to go to Puerto Rico and St. Thomas, and I was out on the deck. And if you've ever taken a cruise before, they turn the lights off on the front deck so you can see all the stars and everything. It's really beautiful. And I sat out there on the deck for about 2-3 hours, just hoping to see something, and then I saw my first USO. It emerged a mile off the ship, near the coast. I think it was one of the islands off of Puerto Rico or possibly St. Thomas. It was hard to tell. It was a summer night. And this green craft came flying out of the water, and it was glowing green and flew right over top of the cruise ship. And this guy from England I happened to make friends with there at the time, he actually witnessed it too. And I talked to him about it the next day, and he says, I wasn't the only one who saw that. I'm like, no, I saw it too. And he's like, it flew right over the ship. And I was like, I know. And then we started talking about it, but it was just incredible that someone else got to see that too, but it was also kind of creepy too, because it was like, great, here it goes again. I'm in the right place at the right time.
Thank God.
I know, but it was also kind of creepy too. It was like, great, I hope they're not going to shut the power off to the ship or something like that, like you see in the movies. But that was the only thing I saw on that whole trip. But that was pretty neat though, to see it come right out of the water though, And then I did some research, and I found out that there is some other sightings out there, people seeing that.
Now, did it make a splash coming out?
It was kind of far out.
Okay.
The water was a tad bit choppy, but it was hard to tell. Like I said, it was about a mile out and pitch black, but all I remember seeing it was the glow greenish. It was like green, most of it, and then kind of a white on the bottom and the top. That was kind of the hue it had. So
now the cylinder UFO you talked about, that was somewhat vertical. Can you did you sort of find out how big it was?
It was big. I would honestly say maybe the size of one of our biggest passenger planes, vertical, of course, without the wings. Mm-hmm. It was, and like I said, it had some rotating spiky thing on the bottom of it, and then, like I said, a spikes with observation platform going up above it, and it was rotating. It was almost like kind of like that's how it flew or something like that, but. It was big. I mean, that's why I was so shocked that no one reported it. I even looked on MUFON, and no one said a word about it. So I'm like, is this something that I just was able to see, or does everyone just ignore it? But they couldn't have during rush hour. I mean, someone should have seen it. Yeah. But it was flying. And I say the movie like They Live, because it was like you saw the ship going where the only way you could see it, you had the glasses on, but that ship was like. No one had the glasses on to see it. Yeah. It was so weird.
Well, the same thing when regarding my UFO, the first time when we did a C5 and it came in just over the houses, the neighbors' kids were outside, the parents were there, everybody was outside. This was around 9-ish something. The light, the sun was still up, but it was coming down, but still, I was amazed that nobody saw it. But but a lot of people, they say that I'd like to see a UFO, but they're not looking to the skies. They're not looking to the stars. Their heads are never up. So a lot of the times they don't see anything because they're not aware that there's something up there.
One of the common things I have when people say they never see a UFO, they always want to, whatnot. I'm like, well, how much do you look? That's the key thing. See, I don't just look up in the sky. Oh, I don't see one and go back inside. Now I'll go 2, 3, maybe 4 hours, and just sky watching, and sometimes this is how it is. I mean, so some people never see like a shooting star or space junk or a satellite or anything like that. But how much do you invest in this? If maybe it's like I said, maybe I'm just like I said, the right place, right time. But it's almost like 10 to 15 coincidences. I think it's a little above beyond right place at the right time at this point, or maybe it's not. I don't know. It just depends on how many around. But Oklahoma's now the reason I said because I said Atlanta's a lot or Georgia's a lot more energetic, because the energy out here in Oklahoma is much different. It's much quieter and much calmer. And the weird part about it is that I don't see as much out here or experience much out here as I did in Georgia. It's very much different. Out here is Sasquatch country. Everyone's all about Sasquatch. I'm like, but I look in the skies. I've seen a few, but nothing like I've seen out there in Georgia. And that one there is just really interesting. Just the difference. And some people theorize, there's a ley line that goes right through Georgia. Maybe I think there's a high possibility because there's definitely some energy out there that's very negative in many cases. Depending on what part of the city. I used to be. Me and a coworker of mine was very, very sensitive to the energies, and it would say some points of Atlanta you just don't want to go near it. It's just like you just kind of get pushed away, and this is how it is. It's very strange, but out here in Oklahoma, in Tulsa, it's kind of a little bit different like that. But you don't know whatever happens underground. You don't know what happens, people do seances or whatever they want to do to where it opens up things they shouldn't open up. And that happens all over the world. There's certain spots that are hot spots.
Now, are you aware if you've got a sort of like Earth mission to finish or like a purpose of sorts?
I've come to the conclusion that my purpose, everyone wants a purpose. Everyone here is like, oh, I got to be brought here for a reason and whatnot. And I'm like, well, yeah, but I think everyone thinks that, oh, I'm going to be the hero to save the world. I'm going to change everything. But I think really I've come to the conclusion that mine is just an observation. I'm an observer. I'm here to observe and possibly only ultimately make a decision, or maybe make decisions with a big group of people that, whatever it is, but it seems like I get far enough ahead, but not too far. I'm in contact with, people all the way on the bottom of the barrel, all the way to the top of the barrel. It's like, I'm always in that middle to common ground. It's like, I don't follow political parties. I don't follow religious views. I have no interest in that. I stay just completely as neutral as possible. Mm-hmm. I'm a very balanced person. I believe, I'm not going to say I'm like this heavenly happy person that's going to be all angelic. I'll punch you in the face if you get on my nerves. but I would never do that unless it's just cause, but that's the kind of person I am, though. I'm very balanced, it's like I'm happy and sad and angry and happy again. This is how it is. So that's how I really came to the conclusion that I'm really just an observer here. I'm meant to just observe and maybe even data collect or whatever it is I have to do. But, I'm fine with that. It's actually, it makes you feel, and when I came to that conclusion, I felt fulfilled. I felt like, yeah, that's finally my purpose. I now know what it is.
Okay. Now, the last few years, have you had any like specific event that's somewhat ET related happen to you?
Maybe in the last few weeks I have. I've been feeling presence in the room again. Like goosebumps would go up all over my body. I've been seeing images of things, images of people, images of possibly non-people. I've been seeing energy coming out of the ground. That was an interesting one. I was driving down down the road the other day, and it was this wavy black energy was just coming out of the ground, and I was like, first thing I thought maybe it was a gas line break or something like that, but I turned around to go witness it and it was gone, but I've been seeing stuff like that. I've been seeing, images of, white energy, almost like, the best way to describe it is if, I believe the theory that possibly two universes are merging right now, like two timelines. There's two something is merging right now because things are just popping out that shouldn't exist and stuff like that. But what I've witnessed lately is almost like split images. It's like they're not perfectly aligned, but they're just like separate apart just by a little bit. And that's what's I've been noticing lately, and it's been getting stronger. So my senses are getting stronger, which is good for me. But I'm just trying to make sense to it.
Okay.
Seems like every day is something new.
Well, that's good. Okay. So, Jay, got anything else you want to share? Because we've been at this for about an hour and a half already. So.
Well, I do remember there was some cases in Georgia. I had this apartment once. It was in Sandy Springs, and it was a very interesting place. There was a lot of people around had certain experiences and whatnot. My experience was I remember waking up one morning, and when I woke up, the whole wall in front of me was in trinary. Like this is before I even knew what the movie The Matrix even was, mind you. Like I never even seen it before. And the whole wall was in code. And like I didn't even know what binary was, but I started seeing, zeros, ones, and twos in there. Oh. And the twos moved very, very slowly. And I actually asked my guide about it. I said, what is this? And they were like, they said, well, that's the construct. You're seeing the construct. They said the twos are actually just to keep there that shows the aging process of the paint and the wall and everything like that. And that's why they move slowly. I was like, but it was just real fascinating. It was real quick. And then there was a time where, just the next day, my wife was in the hallway and I woke up and I looked and there was a goblin above her head. And it was this weird creature. It was slow moving, brown, fuzzy, maybe the size of a softball. And it was just up in the corner of the wall. And I was like, what the hell is that? And she looked up, there's like nothing there. And it was one of those things where it realized I noticed it. And it was just a blink of an eye and it was gone like that. And I was like, and I believe that's one of those energy manipulators, we've talked about, that I've heard about, to where they say, things suck the energy out of you and you don't know why. And you can't get rid maybe like an archon or something like that, you know what I mean? But I actually witnessed it, and I was like, so there are things that we can't see, if not by chance, they are out there. I would hear my name being called in that apartment sometimes. I definitely some ghostly experiences, had some sexual experiences, waking up and it was, you had something like someone was on you and doing stuff with you, and you all of a sudden it's like, you wake up like, whoa, what?
I have been there.
That's happened, a few times actually. And then, but that apartment happened at least once or twice, I remember. And then, demonic forces felt like it would come out and like, I'd try to escape from it or whatnot. There was something going on there. I don't know, but it was wet ground. I remember one time I was watching a show called The Haunting, and they were talking about this one house in Japan, and they were talking about how haunted it was, and it was due to it was put on sour soil and wet ground, and that's in that ground in that apartment was before irrigation. It was always wet, and everything was falling apart and everything. And I was like, I wonder if that has something to do with it, the electrical forces and wet ground, and that's how I always felt there. There was a lot of doors open there. And there, I know people across from me practice a lot of witchcraft, and I don't think they respected it as much as they should have. And I know my wife always says I'm always the conduit, and they always attach themselves to me and come home with me. So,
quite possibly, I've had some. Like, I remember this was in 2009, roughly. Up to 2013, 14, my trash bin would open and close at night. So yeah, it took a while before I decided to investigate where the sound was coming from, because
Yeah.
it wasn't every night, but like let's say like every month or so, around 12:30 at night. Then one Saturday morning, puppy, yeah,
This
well,
is
no, a
Sammy.
big puppy,
Yeah, he's he's lovey.
yeah. Well, I had the ghost of a cat jump on me because I used to take care of the neighbor's cat, but they weren't there to take care of it. He probably died
Uh-huh.
outside because it was super cold during the winter. And I was allergic and I was starting to get sick, so I couldn't really take care of it all the time. So I took care of it for like 2 weeks, but it had to, go out eventually. And, the bastards were never there. And
Uh-huh.
so I probably died. And one time I was in bed and I just, playing on my computer or my cell phone. And I had this white energy jump off from the side of the bed, probably from the floor onto me. And it ran right towards my feet like a cat
Oh
would
wow.
jump. Yeah. And one time, during while I was dating that British contactee, um, one time I was about to fall asleep, and right beside the bed, I heard, children laughing. And, that same year, my fiance, whatever, she was in the bedroom, watching something on her laptop. And she says, Yannick, you never guess what I just saw. I just saw the ghost of a young girl move in front of the bed. So yeah, there was something happening, but it wasn't like an old house. It was a modular home that I bought from a
Yeah.
company, and they, put on site. So it wasn't haunted, first of all. But with all my, my past stuff happening, yeah, things do happen. So yeah, this is quite normal for experiencers to have these things to
Oh yeah.
happen. So
Well, the funny thing you said about modular was it's really based off the land, and
yeah.
I think more of the energy field as well too, because I
Mhm.
was trying to cleanse the house of a friend of ours,
Yeah.
and she married this guy whose relatives were drug runners, and I think Conyers, yeah, I think Conyers or something like that in Georgia, and they were at a lake and they were murdered, and
Oh.
they said that they would still come back to the house,
Mhm.
every once in a while.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I said, well, I'll try to get rid of it, because he said that the vibes they had there was very, very bad. Their husband would act really weird, especially after a couple drinks. They said he would just get almost like possessed by them. So, but they said that if you stay in the guest bedroom, be careful, because that's when they attack you. And I was like, well, cool. I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I went to the guest bedroom and sat down there and went to sleep. And I had the image of two men and a dog, like a bloodhound, pulling me off the bed.
Yeah.
And when I woke up the next morning, I had bruises all up and down my legs, like bad bruises. And then so I knew that she was telling the truth 100%. And then so I went to go cleanse the house, and they were really, really powerful, I have to say. Like I could get rid of them for a temporary amount of time, but then they would come back. And even my wife has saw them at like full image black figures there in the house. Like they go running out of the house, kind of fear, and that kind of thing. And you would see things like walking around. I had video recordings of them playing poker at the table. You could hear the poker chips going and conversations that were blurred out there.
Really?
Yeah, it was one of the big haunted houses. Like it was a modular, it was just a modular. But she never felt safe there. It was very uneasy. So, but I did my best I could with it, but it was at the point where they were just way too powerful. They had way too much, evil fling with them. They just could not get out, and they didn't want to. And so we just had to leave it at that, but there was a lot of different kind of experiences I had there with hauntings and stuff like that. But I kind of, after I got more involved with the extraterrestrials and UFOs, I kind of lost interest in it a little bit more, demonic possessions, though, that is one thing. I really do have a fascination with. My sister messed around with a seance once, and she came with something attached to her, and she's the kind of person that, you can't kind of convince. So I took it upon myself to take it off of her hands, which you're not really supposed to do, but it was the best way. And for 7 days, it was attached to me, and I finally had to just pray about it, or manifest, however you want to say it. And it worked. It got rid of it, and it was
Nice.
But it was an experience that I'll never forget, though, because I felt like, murderous tendencies almost. That's how bad it was. It was just like, I just wanted to just hurt people around you and everything like that. But I learned how to control, just be real quiet and everything like that. And finally I just got rid of it.
I used to watch a lot of EVPs, and for a while, like for a few years, I always thought that something was jumping into my body, like from my back, like into me. And I felt like somebody was pointing like a finger at my back really hard. And I'd always jolt. I always thought there was something in me, and it took a few years to stop, but yeah.
Oh yeah, I get that all the time, and it's like I'll find certain mood changes I have to be careful of. Like it's almost like you're not you. It's almost like someone else is controlling you. You're still can control, but you just don't feel like yourself. But I also have to watch out too, because I'm also very sensitive to earthquakes. I'm very sensitive to planetary movements. Like I can really sense an earthquake when it's happening. I'll sit on the sofa and all of a sudden I'll feel like an earthquake's happening, and I was like, "There's an earthquake happening somewhere." And the next thing you know, the new big one hits somewhere, and it's like, but the problem is I can't decipher if it's a real one or a man-made one. See, that's the big issue. It's like, is it, because we know the government can control that kind of stuff. They can make earthquakes, they can make storms or whatnot. Oh, yeah. But the funny thing about it is I can't tell if it's the real ones or fake ones. It's like I'll feel flows of energy come through, like hit me hard. But I think it's the artificial ones that hit me, because the real ones I can't really detect. Like one hit the border of Georgia and South Carolina with a 3.6, not major, but it was enough to rattle some homes, and I didn't feel it, right there. But the ones that hit Chile, the ones that hit Haiti back in the day, I felt those like bad. I mean, it's like I go extremely quiet. I go extremely just into myself, and it's almost like I'm trying to cycle out the energy. It's like when I first became awakened, I can't go near crowds anymore, like large crowds. I went and saw Sylvia Brown on her last tour. She came to Georgia Convention Center, so I was like just new to the thing. So I was like, I'll go see her, and the power in that room was so overwhelming with all the people in it. My head rung for about 3 days. Like it wasn't a headache either. It was just overwhelming energy. I can't go into a Best Buy. I can't go into an Apple store for more than 5 minutes without having to just run out of there, because the energy is just too powerful.
Yeah, that's the same thing happens to me when I enter pharmacies, chem shops. There's there's something in there that makes me just want to run out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm in a spiritual shop, it's completely the opposite.
Oh yeah.
I feel like all the incense, all the crystals and everything, I feel at peace there. I feel at home. I feel comfortable there, and it's an amazing feeling. Like I would be in there for hours and not even realize it, but like I said, if I go into a place where a lot of EMPs and everything like that, I can't do it. I'm literally like, okay, I gotta go. or even big crowds of people. I think like, if it's positive people, I can probably be around a little bit more, but it's just, it's just modern day. I just can't do it for very long.
So let's call it a night, David. I can hardly see you anymore.
Oh yeah. I can turn on the light if you need me to.
Yeah, it's pitch black, but yeah, we've been at this for an hour and 45 minutes already. Can you? Wow. Oh, there you go. That's nice. So
a little bit better.
So thanks for coming on, David. It's been a blast.
That was definitely great to finally get to talk to you and share my experience. I really hope you, get up in the field there. I know you said about you missed the UFO conference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm really waiting to get back in. I know Lorian Fenton asked me to be on her, to be one of her a speaker at her convention in San Francisco.
Oh.
Yeah. I was on her show a few weeks ago, and she asked me live on the radio to be on board, and I said yes. But again, it's all due to COVID.
I know
it's the restrictions are way too hard.
I know, and it varies by state. It's like even it's funny. It's like here in Tulsa, the mayor's like very strict, but Broken Arrow, which is just one right over, they don't give a damn. It's like do what you want, And I think a lot of people like that are awakened. They know they know the score. They say, well, we're not going to stop you from covering up, but just we're not going to force it either. You know what I mean? Wow. And like I said, I got a lot of coworkers here that are tested positive, but they didn't really found out they've had sick tests, and they're like half come back negative, half come back positive. And they're like, what the hell? I'm like, and that's what I tell them. I'm like, think for yourself. Come on.
Yeah, you can't trust the results.
Yeah, exactly. But no, like I said, it was a great experience, and like I said, it was. I'm glad to be able to share. You know, James Bartley's been amazing. He's been a great friend. You know what I mean? And it's the best thing is I can now go to you too and say, hey, did you hear about this? Or hey, did you see this? You know. So, and it's really good to be able to share the experiences and really not feel like a complete lunatic. You know, in some cases. I mean, because it's nothing that's in a textbook. It's nothing that you can study about. It's really just you just have to put the pieces together in your head, and figure it out from there.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's a lot of experiences out there, and we do. Well, fortunately for me, I was able to meet the proper people at the right time to connect the dots. If it weren't for them, I'd still be stuck in that same mentality. So yeah, I'm really happy that, I've been through a lot of shit, in the last few years, but some of it was worthwhile, and good stuff came out of it.
Well, that's good, and I believe that a lot of the negative experiences, lead to better positive ones, and people that will say they have a horrible relationship or a horrible marriage or a horrible job, and they keep going back to the same thing, and they're never going to improve. Mm-hmm. It's I'm all about, if you make a mistake, great. You know what I mean? You learn from it and you don't do it again, that kind of thing. And it helps. It helps a lot, but it's the only way to move forward.
Mm. But so David, thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
And those watching, hope you enjoyed tonight's show. And as always, more experiencer interviews coming up, and I'll see you guys next time. So take care, everyone.